Well, good evening, I guess. We're at the 11 o'clock hour. We have an 11 o'clock new advisory that's out. I don't know that there was a whole lot of change, a couple of little nudges here, but I'm just going to share with I am tired now. I just am going to share with you the things that we are noticing in terms of change. It's down and dirty now. So, a little dark, isn't it? Here's why. It's wine time. I know you guys think I'm a wacko, but this is really kind of funny. You have to see this. Can you guys see this? All right, where are we? I'll turn this around, watch. This is my wine glass. You guys should get one of these. Then if you rotate it around, good day, bad day, don't even ask day. We're saving the don't even ask day. But yeah. No, I can't sleep, so it's better to actually talk and get this done, and then I'll feel better knowing that I've actually achieved something or done something. But that is my fantastic wine glass. All right, so you get to see it. And I've already washed up, so I don't really care. All right, let me show you what we're looking at, okay? We have the 11 o'clock advisory. We are beginning to see a little bit of an impact in South Florida, and when I say little, it's a little bit more than little. It's probably a little bit more severe. All right. Yes, Sandy. You know what? Sandy, I got two for Janice for her birthday. We have the same birthday, so that's what she got for me for her birthday last year. Yeah, you have to get them. I'll if you hit me up at some point later down the road, I'll give you the link for it, and I'll let you find them yourself. All right. Here's the latest advisory. This is the graphic. I don't want any of you to panic, but here's the center. So it is rolling off the coast of Cuba. Okay, so let me give you the stats here. All right, there's, you got the number for the stats. There's the coordinates. Here are the winds, 120. We've seen a little bit of a fluctuation. They went to 120, then they went back up to 125. They're down to 120. I think that is, I'm going to call it superficial. I think it may only be temporary. And part of that is I still think there's probably a little brushing across the coast with the mountains here in Cuba. So it's kind of emerging or re-emerging off the coast, and it's moving across incredibly warm water. So this is honestly where we think there's going to be a little bit more strengthening. Yeah, we're all holding our breath, Jess. Honestly, we are at this point. And honestly, it's about all we can do. And then here's the motion. This is a change. I don't know that you guys have remembered, but, earlier today it was a west motion. And then the last couple of advisories, it was west-northwest. Here's northwest. So why is that a change, and why is that significant? That change tells me it's turning. It's moving west, not turning. Moving west, northwest, not so much of a turn. Now that we're seeing a northwest motion, there's the turn. That's what we want. We want the turn. Heck, I want it to just kind of race away into the Atlantic, but at least we're starting to see the motion. And the problem, of course, with all this is the longer it takes the turn, the more west it goes, but we are finally at least seeing the turn. So that's new. Same thing as before, though. When it makes landfall, major hurricane, and while it's only a Category 3, and I say that tongue-in-cheek. Mary, you missed it. There's the wine. Yes. I say tongue-in-cheek. It's only a Category 3 right now. We're expecting it to strengthen, so that may mean 4 by the time it pushes ashore. All right, so if it's a 4, we're talking winds 130, top end 156, right? And then it continues to kind of move up the west coast of Florida. The Hurricane Center still is thinking major hurricane, and then enough dry air on the right bank on the eastern slope because it's moving across the land, and then, of course, a little bit of friction, so there should be some weakening. When that happens and how fast that happens, that's the, part that we're not sure of. All right, so a couple of things to point out on the satellite view. Here's Cuba again. You got a pretty good shot now at the southern tip of Florida, right? You can see the lake clearly. Here are the Keys. Here is the center. That's the eye. Now, there's no weather in the eye, but it's all right here. And it's a pretty solid area of what you're seeing in that color red. That's the eye wall. That's your brunt. That literally is the true energy of the hurricane, or at least where most of the strongest energy is. That's where you get the strong winds, the heavy rain. All right, I'm going to put a couple of things now on for you. I gave you guys your bearings. Here's your grid. There's your lat lon. So you get to see the most. Can you see the lift? Up a little bit? it's moving at 6. I can't really show you any kind of an acceleration because at this point I think we're all in the same boat. Post-traumatic Irma syndrome? Can we call it that? Post-traumatic PTIS? PTIS? I'm going to just coin the new phrase. If nobody's used it, I got it. I'm going to trademark it, and you guys are going to have to pay me if you use it. How's that? All right, so there's that. You got your latitude, you got your longitude, you got the lift. All right, so we got a little bit of a northwest motion. I'm going to add the forecast points. As I said to you earlier, these are the points, and as you watch them, it almost looks like they're missing it. Watch the overall trend. This is what I've been telling you guys. Don't focus on a line. Don't focus on the points. The thinking is the curve, the path, the direction. It's all similar, and there's that consensus. So we're pretty convinced it follows this. How exactly? There's going to be some wobbles. There are going to be some nudges. Notice right here. It sure did pick up really, really well, that position. And yes, it was a forecast position. And then they've got it over here. Well, it's just starting to move northwest. We want that more north turn. And so this is the part. And honestly, this is the physical area that we need this to continue with. And then we'll feel a little bit more confident that what we were thinking and how it was behaving, all of that stuff is really true. Let me show you one more important thing. I'm going to get rid of this for a second because this is not the easiest thing to see. All right, there was your update. Those are temperatures. All right, now you see why that was so important? All right, where are the temperatures? Well, I'm looking, you're looking. How about that 83? How about that 78? How about that? The threshold is 21 Celsius, 81 Fahrenheit. It's warm enough here. And so the other fear is, as it keeps, again, it's emerging off the coast of Cuba into the water. It's open water, and enough of that eye wall over that open, very warm water can help to strengthen it. So that's a little bit of a concern right now. And it's always been a concern. I shouldn't really say it's a little bit of a concern. Again, look at the large area of cloud cover. It heads northwest and then north. It hits Florida. It hits Florida from coast to coast. So there's really no escaping the wind or the rain or the impact from the hurricane, whether you're on the east coast of Florida or the west coast. Some areas will have more of an impact, some areas a little bit less. So, we've looked at this. This has not changed at this hour. At 11 o'clock, we still have the hurricane warnings all the way up the entire state of Florida. This is throughout the entire peninsula, and that covers Jacksonville down, and it goes as far west, and that does include, for those of you in this area, we've got Leon, we've got Wakulla, we've got Franklin counties, all in the hurricane warning. Areas to the left of that, the west side of that, that's where you've got the tropical storm warning, and those areas would be basically west, so we'll call it Gadsden County, Liberty County, down to Gulf County, and then west of there, that's the Okaloosa Walton County area. All right, so what does this mean? Tropical storm warning means I'm sorry, a little tired, sorry, apologize guys. Hurricane warning, hurricane conditions, 36 hours. That's what that means. You're going to expect hurricane conditions 36 hours. And we know that's the timeline. We've already said that. Tropical storm warning, same deal. Winds are less, though. Tropical storm force winds, 39 to 73, and that in 36 hours. So the warning in 36 hours, a watch would be 48, but now we're in the warn time, and we're in the warn time because, it's coming this way now. Remember that satellite? Upper fringe, pushing on the coastline, pushing on the southern end of the peninsula, so we know it's coming. What else do we know? We're expecting a storm surge. These are the estimations. This is the above normal height of the water. That's what a storm surge is. It can be higher if it hits at high tide. It's lower if it hits at low tide. But right now, this is the best guess. So the highest... I'm going to have to drink my wine. You guys are forcing me to drink. Sip with me, won't you? Wait a minute. Come on. Where are you guys? Sip. Sip. I am tired, Lori, but this is important stuff. That's my sister. She's in Maryland. She's telling me I'm tired. Thank you. All right. Back away from the wine. And I really haven't had much to drink. Oh, by the way, you'd hear it. My New York accent really gets thick. All right, so down here, this is where we have the expected highest storm surge. So what you're looking at, and that's that purple area, pink, whatever, fuchsia, this extreme southwest peninsula. This is where we're expecting the highest surge. As the hurricane is pushing up, things are offshore. keeps pushing up. Now it's slamming onshore. When I say slam, it's slam. If you're watching any of the video, and it's almost addictive at this point, honestly, you can't help but think that this thing it's going to be a monster. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is a monster. Here's the highest surge. Here's a little bit less, but still we're sufficiently at 6 to 10 feet, 5 to 10 feet. You know, if you're in the first floor, it's above your head. And let's say the Tampa area, Sarasota, St. Pete, you guys 5 to 8 feet. And then north of there, now this includes our area. So we've got our coastline down around the bend. This, of course, includes Taylor and Dixie counties. And so in this area, we're looking at a 4 to 6 foot surge. Again, all of this can change a little bit. On the east coast of Florida, a little bit less, 2 to 4 feet. Okay, so why the storm surge? You got a circulation that's counterclockwise. I'm going to get rid of the temperatures at this point. Temperatures. Okay, I get rid of the temperatures. We get the flow. So right now, you know, it's a weak onshore flow along the southeast coast. Everything's offshore, but then this thing is going to keep moving up. The progression toward the north allows then on the west coast of the state, right, along the west coast on the peninsula here, everything starts to come onshore. The bigger danger with the west coast, which is the Gulf Coast. Oops, that's the wrong map. Bear with me, I don't have a producer. The real danger is the shelf is really shallow in the Gulf, so a Gulf Coast, you know, Gulf effect is a little bit higher than it would be on the Atlantic side. Here it's deeper because the shelf is deeper. Here it's more shallow, so the water has no place to go. If it's got no place to go, you know, it's coming ashore. Mike, you know what? It really does feel like it's a little windy out there. When I was outside, it was windy. Right now, it's not us. It's not the hurricane. I'll show you this stuff. Let's go up. Where are we? Oh, look, it'll be the Tallahassee radar. Wait for it. All right, what are you guys seeing on the Tallahassee? We're going to do quizzes from now on. I think I'm really going to play the professor. And so we're going to do quizzes. And as I do quizzes, you're going to have to actually type in your answers. And I may actually fail you if you don't have the right answers. You know, I'm kidding with this, right? It's ground clutter, so we don't have any of the impact just yet. There is no rain from the hurricane. The hurricane is not close enough for us to be getting anything. And I just wanted you guys to kind of see that. I'm going to head back down toward the Melbourne radar. Now, as I head down toward Melbourne, again, you don't see anything up here. You know, here's the Gainesville area. You know, we've got a little wind, but remember the big circulation and that big spin. So there is some air moving, but it's just air at this point. Now, some of that air is a little more tropical to our south, and as a result, and this is a little bit more expansive than what it was, you know, even just a couple of hours ago. I think we last spoke around 9 o'clock. So it's big flow, not truly with the hurricane, but the big flow around it. So there's, you know, some areas of rain, and there are some embedded thunderstorms, and it's kind of a peppering of that, but it is kind of pushing toward the coastline. So my buddy Kristen is in Melbourne, and I know she shot some video before, you know, and they're kind of enjoying it at this point, but it's, you know, it's going to get real down there. It's going to get real for all of us, but it's going to get real, and of course in the early morning hours, they'll start to see that. All right, let me give you one more radar image. This is a little bit better because this is now a little bit farther south. Of course, I know as you watch this, what you are seeing is the hurricane. And if you look right here, we weren't able to see this a little earlier, but we are able now to see this. And what we are seeing, in fact, is, there's the eye, right? This is the eye wall. That's the real serious stuff, but there's the eye. So that little hollow area. Now, this is not the end of the hurricane. It sure would be nice if they were all perfectly symmetrical and circular like that, and that was the end of it. It's not. It's just the end of the scope of the radar. So it's microwave, it goes out, but the Earth curves, so it bends off and they don't get the signal, and it curves as it's rotating around. Yes, Carrie Ann, you are getting a quiz. Yes, it did slow down, but I am cautiously optimistic with the slowdown. And the slowdown now northwest at 6. It's also a little bit of a shift in the direction because that tells all of us it's starting to turn. When it was west, it was not turning. When it was west-northwest, it was just rolling up the backbone here. Now that it's more of a northwest, now we're seeing that flip. West to northwest, west to west-northwest, and now to northwest. So we need that turn, and that's what we're beginning to see the indications of. And of course, as it's turning, it does slow down. So, you know, we've been talking about this in all the live reports that I've given to you guys. And that 80th degree was what I didn't want the hurricane to cross over because, as I was mentioning, once it hit west of 80 degrees longitude, then it would have more of a severe impact, and certainly that's exactly what's happening. So we didn't get the turn ahead of time, which we would have liked. We're getting it where we thought it was going to happen, and at least it's turning. So there's the good news. The other good news, if there's anything, is once it continues to turn and then lifts more north, it does pick up speed. It's not a slow-moving hurricane. It is certainly nowhere on the same range as what Harvey did. Remember Harvey? It was pretty much stationary. That was a ridiculous hurricane with, the 3 feet of rainfall, and that was true rain. But what we're seeing now, you can barely see some of these city names. You got Marathon, you got Key West, here's Largo, other areas north, Palm Beach. They've been getting pretty slammed for most of this evening, and it's really one of these outer bands. Everything's rotating around, and so as it rotates around, it kind of moves in a weird direction, right? That's the counterclockwise turn. So watch it turn. Up and around, up and around. So it kind of comes up and then it'll go around. So right now on the west coast or the southwest coast of the peninsula, everything's moving offshore. All right, everything's coming onshore, however, on the southeast coast. And again, you can see that pretty clearly. So this is how the rain is moving. This right now is how the air is moving. And all of this is also pushing how the water is moving. Everything kind of is an interaction here. There's nothing a single entity. And so it's going to help to push the water ashore. And so right now we're going to see a little bit of a surge, and it's probably a little more significant than that. And it's right there along the southeast coast. All right, what else do we have? We have, I actually want to show you this. I have a couple of things up, and I want to show you this maybe at the same time. Satellite, radar, both in motion. All right, so this satellite view, you get a pretty good shot, right? And it's a more solid view of exactly what's going on across the entire peninsula of Florida. And the other thing, and this is a really good perspective, guys, so pay attention. If you look at the dimension, right, you can play the game here. If you look at the dimension and that diameter, and it comes up, it covers the entire peninsula coast to coast, and then some. And I say and then some because that diameter is bigger than the width of Florida. So as it comes up coast to coast, we get it. If you are on the outer fringe of the diameter, you have the least impact. You'll have the tropical storm force winds. The core area, and that's the deeper red, that's where you've got, stronger winds, higher cloud tops, but also some stronger winds. So what if it comes up and it takes that path and it leans this way? When I say we, I'm talking Leon County and, even parts of Wakulla County, areas eastward as well. So those of you in Jefferson County and Madison and Taylor and all those areas, we are looking at tropical storm force winds first, and then as we get closer to the center, because the top edge is tropical storm, closer to the center is the hurricane force winds. So it comes in on that sweep, and we're looking at the impact of perhaps those hurricane force winds. Look at that. We have that hurricane warning. Did you guys get that on your phones as well? Or is it just me? All right, so I can't time it out. Everything is still a little bit iffy. We're watching. I like the turn. That's helpful. Here's the radar. How about that for a view? I think now you really get to see the full scope of how large that hurricane is. So when I tell you, as it heads north, nobody's missing it, am I selling it now? Right? Am I selling it? Am I telling you that it's moving, northwest at this point and then maybe more north, but nobody is going to escape this? Do you see what I'm talking about now? And I need you guys to understand it. Okay, so you guys all got the alarm too. It wasn't just my phone kind of going crazy. Kristen, I imagine that the winds are picking... Kristen's in Melbourne. Kristen, I imagine that the winds are picking up and that it's getting a little bit noisy out there. And if you could just write a quick comment, that would be helpful. I know that some of you are in different locations. Many of you are local. And that is really very helpful because we're kind of all in this together. But look at the size. And, then, and now it's covering all the blue of the Big Pen. Big ought to get a little bit of a cover, right? Coast to coast. And then some. Even at its widest point, did I lose it? Even at its widest point, it's coast to coast and then some. There's a lot of rain. So what could happen? I like to play the what could happen games. Again, I'll put the forecast points back on. because this is the best guess by the Hurricane Center, and these are the guys that are kind of getting together, and they're sitting there, they're going, okay, this model does this model does that. We got that whole cone, so here's our margin of error, and then here's our best track. That's the best efforts of these guys, and this is what they have come to in terms of the decision. So Kristen in Melbourne says, yes, ma'am, it did, but then, what is she saying? Calm down a bit from earlier, but started again. All right, the reason why it calmed down and started again is, here's your radar, here's Melbourne. And so you're still seeing just these bursts of rain and wind. This is breaks. These are all the outflow areas. It's not the outflow, it's not the spiraling bands of the hurricane, it's just some of the rain that's moving ashore. And so what accompanies this is rain, some wind, but these are bursts, so there are breaks. And it's a little deceptive because it would almost seem as though these are the bands, but it's not the bands just yet. As this moves up, you're going to stop with the breaks, and then you're going to get more of the bands. And what's been happening in West Palm for most of tonight, they've had a training effect where one particular feeder band has been kind of moving almost from east to west, but there's been some rotation to it, and that's given them some pretty hefty rainfall amounts. I'd like to really see what the rainfall total there is, but it's been pretty consistent. So north of there, and this is, the Fort Pierce, here's the Melbourne, there's the Daytona Beach area, but really we're confined to right now between Melbourne and Fort Pierce. This is the outflow because you got some tropical air in place. Now, we also have had a cold front come down, and as the cold front came down, we got some cool, dry air. It's colliding with the tropical air from the hurricane. So it's warm and muggy, and that collision can cause a little bit of a spin up, and very often as these hurricanes move ashore, we have the possibility of tornadoes. We did have some warnings. They did pop up earlier. Most of those have been allowed to expire. I'm not seeing any watches issued at this point, but don't be surprised, as they do, and they will. They'll continue to kind of pop up. All right, so let's go back to the satellite picture. We got the scope of this. We know it's heading up. Here's what happens. Well, let's play the what happens if. Here's our cone, right? The whole white area is the cone. All right, the cone says could be on the left side of the cone, which is west. It could be on the right side of the cone, but we're pretty confident it's going to be within the cone. We're pretty confident it's going to be in the cone where there is less of an error down here in a very short term, right? That's the short range forecast. As we go out a little bit longer, it's not incredibly long, but it's longer. This would be 8 o'clock tomorrow night. There's a little bit more breadth to this, so you can see that it could deviate a little bit farther east or a little farther west, and of course, even more time, much more deviation. All right, what if? What if the hurricane goes here, follows the very left-hand side of the cone? Well, this does not bode well for us in Tallahassee, Wakulla, and also in the Franklin counties. Because if that's where the center is, we would be on the right-hand side, and that certainly is going to give us the worst-case scenario. Just so you understand that. Now, this is what they're thinking, but there's a possibility. What if, let's go the other side. What if it's on the right-hand side of the cone? I love the right-hand side of the cone for us. I love the right-hand side of the cone because the farther away it is from us, the less hurricane impact, though we will still have the tropical storm force impact. And so, that would really be the difference depending on where it goes. We have absolute confidence in the really short term. So you're looking at 12 and 24 hours. We're pretty good. The confidence is here. The margin of error is a little less than it is as we go out in time. But again, we had a quiz before. Most of you got it. You notice that in the black dot, there's a letter. And initially the letter, and even as it makes landfall, the letter is an M. M means major hurricane. So major hurricane is a Cat 3 or higher. That means the winds are at 111 or stronger. All right, so that's significant. And, this doesn't have to change anything. We have 120 now. It's a major hurricane. All right, could strengthen more. Instead of 3, we could go to 4. And we could go to the top end of a 4. But, there's also not so much wide open water because there's land nearby, but there is that opportunity because of the warm temperatures for it to strengthen. Then it kind of brushes. Now, if half the eye crosses over, it's made landfall. And so, we don't know that it's coming in at an angle. We don't know if it's running parallel, but right now it looks like it's going to push ashore in this area. That would leave the eastern half of the hurricane over land. What happens? Friction. You go from a smooth water to rough land. Rough land is actually going to give us a little bit more friction. That'll slow things down. It'll also dry things out. So typically what I see, This is what I've noticed, and this is just my experience. Hurricanes moving over land, they start to weaken the winds, right, because of the friction, and then you'll start to see a decrease in diameter. They decrease in the size. That would also decrease the area of hurricane force winds. But, you know, we can't bank on anything because, and we admit this, there is uncertainty. I don't like it hovering along the west coast of Florida, but that's the possibility. So we go from major at landfall, we allow for some weakening, and then you'll notice in this area, and this might be the, it might be the county line of Taylor County. I can't really pinpoint that for you, but they take it down to an H. So from major to just hurricane, and that still could be from a strong category 2 down to a 74-mile-an-hour wind, but that's what a hurricane is. And then if it were to keep moving in this general direction, again, lots of dry air, lots of friction, and so from hurricane, by the time it hits the border between, or the state line between Alabama and Georgia, now you're down to a tropical storm. That's if it were to follow that nice, smooth, straight path. Any deviation changes everything. And any deviation could be as small as 20 miles west, which has a much more significant impact in our area. Leon, Wakulla, Franklin counties, much more significant. If it deviates a little bit to the east, and that, again, as little as 20 miles, could change the kinds of winds that we get. So I have a couple of graphics that may or may not be here, but here it is. This is updated now. So this is as of 11 o'clock tonight. They have shifted this a little bit, and you may have noticed that. You may have noticed, well, they were saying, early afternoon Sunday, and now they're saying, a little bit later on Sunday. That's what happens. Hurricane's not moving so fast, and if it's not moving so fast, as I said to you before, I think it's the turn. It slows down as it's turning. It's kind of like moving an elephant down the road. They don't really go at rapid speed. It takes some time for that to happen. So as all of that is happening, you know what? I just realized that other people were here with us. As all that is happening, as the turn is happening, it slows down. So that's going to slow down the forward progression. What does that mean to you and me? Okay, it doesn't slow down the forward progression. I'm not really talking to in my thesis here. It slows down when you get it. It, slows down when the impact is first felt. And so if you're in Leon County, and that's us here, where the Tallahassee area is. If you're in Leon County, today they issued an voluntary evacuation. If I slow down, I can think. A voluntary evacuation because we were under hurricane warning, and they said if you're going to do that voluntary evacuation, you have until, this is your deadline, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And that was because, based on at the time, the earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds would be about that time. Now notice it's kind of lifted a little bit to the north. With that, we may not see the winds until 10 o'clock. It may be a little bit later. And this was the earliest possible time, by the way, anyway. And just so that you'd know, if the winds start picking up, that's the earliest time that you've got the hurricane kind of coming your way. But it could be a little bit later than that because it's got the turn going on. It's slowing down. We are still pretty comfortable saying that as it continues the turn and moves more toward the north, it does pick up speed. So you'll see, it kind of marching up the peninsula. But it's a slow turn. It's a slow journey north until it starts to pick up. So we're going to lift that a little bit. So it's, for us, locally up here, it's a nighttime hurricane. Our impact, this is tropical storm force winds. Following that, because remember, we got that large wind field. So it's all wind and embedded in the smaller areas, hurricane force winds. So this would be about the time that the winds start to pick up. They may increase up to the hurricane force, and then we may have that for a period of time. And by the way, in total, somebody had asked me this, and my best guess is we may be looking at a duration of 12 or so hours. I'm expecting about a half a day. And again, it's an overnight situation. So even as we're waking up on Monday morning, we may be still dealing with the tail end of this. I guess it depends on what time you guys wake up. Hopefully we're all starting to get, a little bit of sleep around here. Kim, we're all worried about Taylor County. I think my big concern at this point is, as it keeps moving up with that rotation, there's a concern about the storm surge. But even right now, the Hurricane Center is saying 4 to 6 feet. It depends on the timing, too, and, of course, the high tide and the time of that, but the storm surge may be a big concern. So hopefully you guys are not at the coastline And if you have had and you did get the opportunity to get out, that makes all of us feel a little bit better. And notice the red here. You saw the other one where everybody had, the red is the hurricane warning. It is the entire eastern coast of the state of Florida. It wraps around, includes the Keys, and it goes all the way up to Indian Pass. Then from Indian Pass over to the Okaloosa-Walton County line, there is a tropical storm warning. So pretty much we have a hurricane warning for just about most of the state, with the exception of the far western panhandle, and that's a tropical storm warning. And what that means is, if it keeps this path, only the outside areas get less of wind. Only the outside areas get less wind. That makes sense. There's the cone, right? So all of this is going to get the wind. And as it first hits, it's strong winds both sides. And then it starts to shrink in terms of its size. It'll weaken in terms of its hurricane wind intensity. But, not until it hits will we actually... I am thirsty. Kathy, I have something I can drink, though. Not until it actually hits will it actually start to decrease in terms of size and intensity. So we're waiting and we're watching. Again, the only things that really did change, the direction of motion. So instead of west-northwest, now it's true northwest. A little bit slower, though, at 6. That's our indication of the turn. And the other thing, the winds are going to go back and forth. Don't go one way or the other. Don't think, okay, they're decreasing, they'll keep going, or they'll increase and they'll keep going. They may fluctuate a little bit, but right now it's lifting off Cuba as it moves away from the coast. Warm water, expect strengthening, and then we got to keep watching the turn. All right, what is the chance that the storm center does not hit land? I'm not going to tell you there's no chance. There's always a chance. Mathematically, there's always a probability. And if you were to follow this and then take it more left, right? So we're on the far left-hand side of the cone. That would be what you're suggesting, right, Margaret? And so if that happens, then we're looking at coastal Franklin County. But we're starting to see the turn, and the turn is telling us that it's turning northwest, and then it should be more north. And I'd love to be northwest and then north quickly. And we're all going to watch that. But, as I said at 9 o'clock tonight, the turn is really one of the important things that we needed to see. And we're starting to see at least the beginning of it. So that's a good sign. If it weren't turning at all, then I'd really be concerned. And, not that I'm not concerned. I mean, we're all concerned at this point. But one more time, hurricane warning everywhere. That's a tropical storm warning. So we're covered with that. That means hurricane conditions, 36 hours. Here's your storm surge forecast. So, again, there's Taylor County, but right now they're looking at 4 to 6 feet. And you guys know these areas really, really well. You may have an inlet, you may have a small bay. You know that water pushes up just a little bit higher. And because they've been doing it a long time and you've been watching it a long time, if they say 6, it's 7. Well, if you know that, then you know it. And I'm not going to say that you're wrong. You're probably right. Those of us that have been in these places for a really long time know some of these local nuances better, than what they're trying to help us with, and then, doing all of that. So that's it. At this point, I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a really quick update. We're going to slow down the winds. It's going to take its time. Tomorrow is going to require all the patience in the world that you guys can muster up. And when I say all the patience in the world that you guys can muster up, you know why. We've been doing this for a week. I'm tired. You're tired. We're waiting. We're waiting. We're watching. We're anxious. We're nervous. We hear this. We hear that. And we're trying to figure out whether or not what they're saying is right, what they're saying is wrong. Should we believe this? I've heard some really bad stuff, and you guys have as well. I have a friend, and she right now is in Boston. She has a friend that's in West Palm, and he said he was staying in West Palm. And they had mandatory evacuations. But he said he was staying because he heard it was only going to be a Category 1. I don't know where he is right now. He's still in West Palm somewhere. I'd love to show him that radar and ask him if he's still feeling like it's a Category 1 hurricane. This is my super. Those of you in the TV business, and I still have my buddies that are watching. Right? I don't have a fancy logo. I do have an AMS seal. So those of you that are wondering what my credentials are, I do have a seal. I'm certified. My name is Nancy Dignon. I am your weather captain because I was dubbed that last year when we went through Hermine. And more importantly, I am a meteorologist. I had a first news director who said I had more degrees than a thermometer, but I have both a bachelor's and a master's. So I do have some knowledge about this, and I also have plenty of experience. I've done this for a couple of decades for the local television stations, and I also teach at the college. I don't know more than everybody else. I don't even know why I'm fixing my hair. It's not like I'm really on TV right now, and I already washed up. But I'm just trying to do this to try to answer some simple questions and maybe put things in a simpler fashion to you guys so that you understand it. I can take my time and I can do this. And when they only have a few minutes at a time to share that information, I don't blame anybody. It's just that there are some time constraints. And they may not be knowing because they don't see your little questions pop up or your comments pop up. They may not know what you're thinking or you're trying to figure out at this point. What did you do? Let's see. Leon, is it possible it could turn and stay on water or go into Alabama? Anything is possible. I'm not going to eliminate any of the possibilities. There's migration, shifts, nudges. I have called it all three terms. Don't be surprised. There are consistent wobbles. The wobble's the eye. Let me show you this one more time. Here's the wobble. How do you know it's a wobble? Watch the center. I'm going to get rid of the forecast points here for a second. Watch the center, that's the eye. Notice not smooth. There's a wobble. They wobble. They're big, they're massive, there's so much energy. Maybe you guys have heard this term, eye wall replacement cycles, but there's so much going on. They're not smooth, they're not consistent, they're not steady, and they're never going to follow a straight, smooth curve. So expect the wobbles. Don't bite. You see a wobble. Don't tell me there's a wobble. That means, no, it doesn't. Something happened here. Was that me? I don't really know what I'm doing at that. Oh, here we go. All right. I don't know if I lost you guys there for a second, but the wobbles are going to happen. A little bit of a shift is going to happen. So as the overall motion continues, the trend that we're thinking will continue. So help us to feel a little bit more comfortable with that. Do I think St. George has a good chance? I don't think it has a good chance, but it has a chance. Every area has a chance, and that's because it's within the cone. And so, yes, St. George has a chance. Now, if it stays, and Kara, I just want you to watch this for a second. If it stays a little bit to the right, which would be to your east as you're looking at this, there's less of a chance. Now, if it shifts more toward the west, that's when we'll be talking about a more significant rise in that probability. So that's that. Let's see. Yes, you can play the entire thing back. Okay, and I want to do that because I really just wanted this to be a quick one. I didn't want to let you guys down. This is the 11 o'clock, so this is the last one. Remember, these things come every 3 hours. So at 11, it goes 2, 5, 8, 11. It's AM and PM. And what they're now doing, because we're real close to land, they'll give you position estimates every hour. So if you want to see exactly where it's located on the hour, you can go to nhc.noaa.gov. That's the Hurricane Center, and you'll know that exactly. Otherwise, the full advisory, everything, any shift, all the graphics, every 3 hours. So for now, try to get some rest, try to get some sleep. We'll chat tomorrow morning, but have a good night, guys.